Hello, if you want to watch exclusive lemon content on What If Naruto, then go to my Boosty. The first link in the description here contains such hot stories for adults, such as What If Naruto was a daddy for Sarada, or Kushina and Mikoto Vulgar Naruto mommies. Follow the link and enjoy. I'm waiting for you.
I just do what's best for me. Don't listen to my enemies. They're just full of jealousy. This legacy. You gon' see what's left of me. You gon' see success in me. You ain't seen the rest. I just wanna be the best at what I know. Better than the rest, just watch me grow. Put me to the test and watch me go. This is my quest, I'ma make it known. They call me obsessive, oh I know. Call me selective with my notes. Call me aggressive with my flow. Call me offensive, even though Joey ain't gonna lie, life's tough. Try to get by, life's rough. Try to do it right, it's not enough. Even though you try, you still mess up. But I'm still gonna fight for what I love. Still gonna die for what I love. Still gonna try, I won't give up. Still gonna fight until I've won. They say I'm way too obsessed. And I've got nothing left. And I'm not quite there yet. But those words. Chapter 11. Naruto had to make the most effort not to gather frustration while thinking about the events of the last few days. He first got very drunk at that party in Alcalipa. And ended up being taken to the hotel by Urza. To top it off, the hotel was full. Normally it would be uncomfortable for both of them to sleep in the same bed, but they slept together when they were children. So it didn't pose any problem, besides Naruto was too drunk to object to anything. He had to pat his face when remembering the fright he got. Urza, when she had one of her strange dreams once again, which hadn't happened in the last 3 years. She was still shaken by the disturbing dream she had had. Flashback. We see a young Chirefri around 14 years old, in a crater with blood coming out all over his body. He was only wearing black trousers, which were torn apart. He looked out of the corner of his eye and saw that the whole area was completely destroyed, the trees dead, and some mountains destroyed. His master was breathing with some difficulty, and his cloak was torn, his whole body covered with blood-stained bandages, preventing to see his body or his face, but on his head an abundant black hair with blue tints could be seen. You have improved a lot, brat. You still need to be stronger than you already can. A great battle, your dark magic, is something that has not been seen in almost 1,000 years. He praised his sensei with a dark laugh. Thank you, sensei, Cherry said with a smile. Both teacher and student returned to the cave where they were staying, and after healing their wounds, they started drinking some tea. Cherry saw that a black book with some golden parts was peeking out of his teacher's backpack. It looked very old, and a black dragon print could be seen in the center. Curious, he took the book and read the title. The Secrets of Ryuta Draconia. I see that you are curious, Seraph. His teacher said in an amused voice. Who is Ryuta-sensei? Cherry asked curiously. It was the first dragon slayer, and the one that almost reached the woman who became a goddess, the bandaged man replied, leaving his student confused. What does that mean, sensei? Cherry asked, very confused. It is a very old story that almost everyone has forgotten. In the time of Rikudo Sennin, Amura Otsutsuki and Ryuta Draconia were best friends. They both achieved the greatest feats in the world. They could have had the world at their feet. But Amura let himself be influenced by humans. In the end, both friends killed each other before Ryuta could get the power. Definitely rivaling Kaguya, the man said, leaving Seraph confused. You know something, just like your Amura had a dark power, for which he was called a demon. I hope you don't make his mistakes. Seraph-kun, humans are nothing but garbage and imperfection, his master said before leaving the cave to get some air. Seraph remained thoughtful. He was curious that it was that power that rivaled the gods, but decided to leave it for another time. So deep was he in his thoughts that he did not notice that outside the cave his master was laughing madly. Ah, soon Seraph-kun, very soon, you will be my ticket to power, I found. A descendant of Amura couldn't be a coincidence, either the devil or fate, you're both on my side. The man laughed, emitting a dark blue aura. End of the flashback. That had been one of the most disturbing dreams he had ever had, but he couldn't think about it much. As Urza saw him wake up very upset and with blood in his eyes, she filled him with an annoying interrogation, and although he blamed it on the hangover, she did not believe him, but decided to leave him alone for now. When they returned to the guild, Urza had a fit of hysteria when Makarov told her that Natsu, Luki and Appy went on an S-class mission without permission, and that Gay had been sent to stop them. He ended up joining them. This angered Fire and Tile's strongest woman greatly, and after preventing her from murdering anyone, They went towards Galuna Island to find the fire dragon's lair. They found Luki confronting another Midge after Urza captured her, and by the way, poor Appy, they looked for Gray. He still remembered the conversation they had. Flashback. Gray Firebuster looked at the situation somewhat disturbed. A very angry Urza sitting on a trunk with her legs crossed and her fingers intertwined, giving her a dark look. Lucky and Appy on their knees tied up with rivers of tears falling from their eyes. Naruto was sitting on the floor, playing poker with one of his clones without giving the most importance to the others. "You're late, Gray," Urza said in a somewhat glacial voice. "Urza," Gray exclaimed in shock. "I heard what happened with Luki and Appy. Aren't you supposed to stop Natsu?" "I have no words," Urza said, looking at Gray seriously. "Where's Natsu?" Gray asked, ignoring what Urza had said. "That's what I want to know," Urza said, thinking of 1,000 ways to punish Natsu before walking towards the exit of the store. "Gray, let's go look for Natsu. When we find him, I'll come back to the guild," Urza said, earning a confused look from Gray. "What are you saying, Urza? If you heard what's going on, you must know what's going on this island," Gray exclaimed, not understanding. "And what about that?" Urza questioned. "I came here to take back those who broke the rules. I have no interest in anything else," Urza said without any emotion. "Did you not see how the people of the island looked like?" Gray asked. "I saw it," he replied. "It was without any interest." "And you're just gonna leave it at that?" Urza asked in disbelief. "The request has been sent to all guilds. It would not be better than other wizards from another. Did another guild take over the job properly?" Urza asked, still without emotions. "I don't know you, Urza," Gray exclaimed somewhat annoyingly. "What did you say?" growled Urza, glaring furiously. He dared to challenge the great Urza, Appy exclaimed in fright. "Great?" Luki asked, confused. "Do you intend to break the rules too?" Urza asked, re-equipping a sword and pointing it at Gray's neck. "You won't do what you want," she ordered with a serious look before being somewhat surprised when Gray took the sword in his hand and pointed it at his chest. Both magicians were challenging each other with the look before the scared look of Luki and Appy, and a somewhat disappointed one of Naruto. "Do what you must. This is the path I chose. It's something I have to do," Gray declared with conviction and looking defiantly at Urza. Urza gritted her teeth furiously and was about to respond when Naruto, in a burst of speed, appeared in front Urza and took the sword with 2 of her fingers. "You have a lot of conviction to challenge someone obviously stronger than you to save these people. It's a personal thing, right?" Naruto asked, looking out of the corner of his eye at Gray. "What are you doing?" Urza screamed in shock. "Yes," Gray muttered under his breath as Naruto smiled. "Go away, I'll take care of everything here," Naruto ordered seriously. Gray looked at him for a few moments before nodding and running off. "Naruto, you're going to break the rules too?" Urza asked angrily before, to her surprise, Naruto bent his fingers, breaking his sword. "I am very disappointed in you, Urza. I taught you that even if rules are important, there will be times that you will have to break them for the greater good. You of all people should know that," Naruto said with a sad look on his face. "But I tried to answer Urza, but it made her feel kind of sad, the disappointed look that Naruto was giving her. "I have never followed rules and probably will never follow them. I am only true to my convictions. My conviction right now is telling me to help Gray and those poor people who are suffering out there. If you want to stop us, you'll have to defeat me," Naruto said before wrapping his arms around her hip and whispering something to her. "In your ear. You know as well as I do that you couldn't stop me. Comparing your power and mine is like comparing a glass of water to the vast ocean," Naruto said in a cold and imposing voice before giving her a kiss on the cheek and looking at her with swens. "You are one of my precious people, Erkin. I won't stop you from punishing them, but don't make me have to pass over you to complete this job," Naruto said before leaving the store in search of Gray. Urza was standing there not knowing how to react. The colors came to his face when he hugged her. He called her his precious person and kissed her cheek. She let go of the broken handle of her sword. Never in her whole life, no man had imposed himself on her like that. It made her feel weird. She stood without reacting for a few moments before re-equipping another sword with which she cut Luki's bonds. Appy, who were practically shocked by what had just happened. "We will complete this job," I whisper, lowering my gaze, trying to her blush. Luke and Yappy were about to leave the store, but Urza spoke to them again. "But they will not be spared from punishment," she cried very angrily. They both shouted before running off. End of the flashback. This brings us to the current situation in front of Naruto, Leon, Gray and Natsu. There was none other than one of the most powerful monsters of Seraph. They were in front of Deliora. So that's Deliora. It's definitely very powerful, Naruto muttered to himself, looking at the beast in front of them. We meet again, Deliora cried, Leon crawling on the ground, staring madly at the beast. Gay murmured sadly, taking the water that used to be the ice that kept the monster sealed in his hands. There is no choice, that thing needs to be destroyed, Natsu growled, as he looked at Deliora. It's impossible for you, I will defeat him, Leon muttered madly, crawling towards them. Lion, Gray said with sadness in his voice. To get past her, I pulled him to Rio Lion, while Naruto was wondering if he had already lost his mind. It seems more impossible for you, stay there, Natsu exclaimed, pointing at Lion. Gror exclaimed, the lion, fed up of being ignored. The only monster that couldn't defeat, I will defeat him. Leon said, using his last strength to stand up, remembering his moments with his teacher. I'm going to outsmart you, he exclaimed before feeling a blow to the back of his head, knocking him out. That's enough, Leon, said Gray, who had hit Leon, starting to walk towards Delion. Leave the rest to me, I'll seal Deliora, Gray said before crossing his arms in front, and an ice-blue aura formed around him. Ice Quirus, Gray exclaimed, raising his magic power. Don't do it, Gray. You know how long it took me to break that ice. You're just repeating history. Someday I'll break the ice again, Leon shouted, although he really didn't want Gray to die. It's the only way, this is the only thing that can stop him, Gray shouted, but he felt Naruto pushing him by stopping the technique. Gray, you idiot, what were you about to do? Natsu shouted angrily. There's no point in you using that, Naruto said. Coldly. But it's the only way, Gray said somewhat despairingly. He was already sealed once for that. Believe me, he won't let you do it so easily this time. We could seal it with another one of my techniques, but there are many people who want his power. So there would be no point if someone releases it again, he said. Naruto, while Gray had to admit that he was right. So, what do we do? Gray asked seriously. Naruto didn't answer, he just clasped his hands together, as if holding something, and in the gap between his hands, forming a greenish electricity. Naruto separated his hands, forming an energy spear, which he held with one of his hands. Arimpago's Ransa, muttered Naruto, while looking at Deliora. We can only totally destroy him, that's the most logical solution, Naruto said before seriously looking at Natsu. Take these two and get out of here, find Urza and the others, run as far as you can. Dino Naruto with a cold look. But I want to fight too, Natsu shouted, but Naruto glared at him angrily. Naruto brushes his spear against a nearby rock formation, causing a huge explosion, and the ground to shake slightly, leaving everyone very scared. If this explodes with you guys around, rest assured you won't survive. Now do as I tell you, I will give them 5 minutes advantage to distract him before throwing the Korin, Naruto shouted. While Natsu wisely did the right thing, but before he could get out of Lira, I tried to hit him. Naruto took his spear with his left hand, and smashed his fist, wrapped in white rays in the right, against Deliora's fist. What happened next left everyone in shock. Deliora started screaming, and cracks were forming on her body. Just at that moment, she started tearing herself apart. Impossible, by no means, exclaimed Leon in disbelief. He was already dead, Gray said as Naruto deactivated his spear. After 10 years, Deliora had been defeated by Ice. I could not overcome and Aro Lion, while moaning with sadness. Gray looked at everything with a dark gaze before bursting into tears. Thank you, teacher, Gray muttered as he helped Lion to his feet. Natsu looked at everything with a smile before noticing that something was stuck between the stones, but it was covered by the water. Curious, he approached and took out the body of a young woman with somewhat damp clothes, pale skin, short black hair with purple tints. This woman was no more and no less than a Milkovich. Guys, come quickly, Natsu shouted, getting everyone's attention. They ran towards Natsu, and what they saw made even Naruto's blood run. It can't be, Leon muttered when he saw his teacher's body. Gray said, letting out a few tears. Impossible, that technique is supposed to be suicidal, Naruto thought. Coming out of the shock, and running to Natsu and checking her, he checked her pulse and noticed that she was still alive. He's alive, but he's very weak. If we don't take care of her quickly, she will die, Naruto said emotionlessly. Everyone was shocked, and Gray and Leon felt helpless since there were no hospitals in this place. I can regenerate the damage generated by the years she has been frozen, but you must swear that you will not say anything about what you will see, Naruto said as both Yura students quickly felt. Naruto activated his Rinnegan, which shocked Leon and Yura, and since they had seen those eyes in old stories. A demonic statue came out of the floor, a hand. It came out of her mouth and took her, she started chewing it, and after a couple of minutes, she took it out exactly the same. I have regenerated all the damage, but he can still die since the ice was at a dangerously low temperature for the human body. Nacho, this will be the weirdest thing I've ever asked you, but take her in your arms, I order Naruto. Getting angry looks from Leon and Gray. What are they trying to do with fucking depraved? I scream furious lion, glaring furiously at Naruto and Natsu. Don't even think about touching her, damn Natsu, Gray shouted, just like Leon. What did you say, you fucking striper? I scream, Natsu spitting fire. That's not what I meant, earball. I mean to stabilize his temperature with Natsu's natural heat, as a fire dragon's lair, Naruto shouted with a look more terrifying than Urza's. Leon and Gray didn't like the idea, but it was the only way to save her. Natsu took in his arms, and they went out to look for the others. Some time later, the Wizards of Fire and returned to Magnolia, and were walking in the direction of their guild, with 2 clones of Naruto, now carrying on an improvised stretcher. After the destruction of Deliora, they helped the villagers who turned out to be real demons, but they did not remember it. Leon and his followers returned to the mine Ascali, but Leon had said that soon. I would go to visit her, she was not waking up yet, but they were hoping she would soon. Josh, I can't wait to tell everyone how we completed our first S-Class mission, Natsu said very excited. Of course, we completed it because I was there, Gray said with a mocking smile to his rival. What do you mean, pervert? Natsu growled, glaring furiously at Gray. I'm just saying that you were nothing but extra baggage, the Gartija, Gray replied, bumping his head against Natsu's. He, knowing the fight, decided to end it before it started, without any delicacy, separated them by hitting their heads with the palm of his hands. No more fighting, don't forget that you still have to face the teacher's punishment for disobeying the rules, Titania stated. Coldly earning panic looks from everyone but Naruto, who was walking very calmly. Do you mean that punishment? Appy asked, trembling, earning a wink from Urza. Natsu and Gray turned pale like ghosts and hugged each other. Not that punishment. I will stop breaking things, but not that punishment, it's horrible. Natsu muttered with a very unusual aura of depression on him. I still have nightmares, Gray said, shaking. Naruto, protect me, Appy shouted, flying towards Naruto's head. I'm sorry, Appy, but I promised Urza-chan that I wouldn't prevent her punishment, Naruto said regretfully as Appy cried anime style. What is this punishment? Luki asked innocently. Believe me, you don't want to know, Urza said with some malice. Lucky got scared and looked at Natsu, Gray and Appy. It's the same hell to Natsu, we have to run away, shouted a hysterical Appy. Don't be silly, if we escape, Urza will hunt us down, Gray whispered, while Natsu and Appy reluctantly nodded. What is this punishment? Lucky asked, very scared. Now shut up, cried Urza in despair. Naruto, he sure can't save us from this one, Luki asked Naruto quietly. She knew if there was anyone who could convince Makaros, it was Naruto, after all, if he could with the demon that is Urza Makaros. It was a piece of cake. I'm sorry, but as I said before, I promised Urza-chan that I wouldn't intervene in that. I'm not the type to break up promises, Naruto said as Luki became depressed. They walked for another couple of minutes, but Naruto frowned when he saw that people pointed at him, muttered. And some even looked at them with pity and sadness. We are provoking an unusual amount of attention, Gray said with his hands inside his pockets. Since incredibly she had her clothes on. I have a bad feeling about this, Appy said. Afraid? Urza asked, looking at the people. It was then that they looked straight ahead, and saw with horror that the guild was smashed and several metal bars were going through it. That definitely wasn't there before, Naruto muttered, looking coldly towards the guild. Everyone was staring in horror and fury. That's it, Gray said incredulously. What happened? That's what Urza could have said. Our guild has been destroyed, Natsu exclaimed, clenching his fists and a furious expression on his face. What the hell happened? Urza asked no one in specific. Phantom whispered a voice, making everyone turn to meet Mirahane, who had a dejected expression. You said Phantom? Natsu asked with a gloomy look. I hate to say it, but it did, Mirahane replied, as she led everyone into the guild's basement, which was now a temporary tavern. Everyone was looking at the dejected and annoyed faces of their guildmates as they walked towards Makarov, who was drinking without the slightest care in the world. Hello, welcome home, Makarov exclaimed to the young people, with cheeks flushed from so much drinking. Huh. That's what Lucky managed to say when he saw that the teacher was so calm. We have returned, Urza said as calmly as ever. Grandpa, why are you sitting there? Natsu exclaimed, somewhat annoyed. How was Naruto? These guys didn't give them any trouble to come back. Normally I would punish them, but I'm in a good mood, I forgive them, Makarov said cheerfully, olympically ignoring Natsu. In normal situations, Appy, Natsu and Gay would be overflowing with joy, but the guild situation prevented it. Teacher, don't you understand the situation we are in? Urza asked very would-be. The guild has been destroyed, Natsu said, as thousands of ways to destroy Phantom ran through his mind. Now, calm down, it's not something to be so angry about, Makarov said, taking a big gulp of his beer, to the shock of his fellow members. Naniri. That's what Gray said. Naruto noticed that Makarov just didn't want to show his rage against Phantom, and frankly understood well why. Phantom, those assholes broke in, attacking the guild when no one is there. What kind of asshole would take pleasure in something like that? Makarov said without concern. Was there no one there? Urza asked, calming down a little. It seems that the attack was at night, Mira replied with a sad look. So that's why there are no injuries. I guess it's something to be thankful for, Urza said calmly. If they can only handle a sneak attack, they shouldn't even give those bastards an hour of the day. They're not worth our time, Makarov said, but Natsu disagreed and punched the wall. That's not right. I won't be satisfied until I go beat the shit out of those fuckers, Natsu shouted with an expression of absolute fury. The discussion is over. Until we repair the upstairs, we will take the applications here, Makarov said as everyone just stared at him. It's not a time for jobs, Natsu replied. Natsu, I've had enough of you, Makarov shouted, reaching out his hand and spanking Luki. So why is he hitting me? Luki asked with poker pace. Master, I will be angry, Mirahane said with a frown that many would consider adorable. Oh, Makarov River before running out. Grandpa shouted Natsu, but he was ignored. I'm going to the bathroom, Makarov shouted before entering the bathroom. I don't understand why Grandpa is okay with this, Natsu muttered, with some disbelief. This is very painful for the master, you know, but open conflict between guilds is forbidden by the council. Mirahane said, trying to calm Natsu down. But they attacked us first, Natsu shouted, throwing a tantrum. Naruto, who had been silent the whole time, decided it was time to intervene. He hit Natsu on the head, burying him on the floor, and picked him up from the scarf, giving him an icy stare. Understand the fuck off that it doesn't matter, Naruto growled in a voice that shook everything and made Urza blush. Not all problems are solved by kicking ass. Idiot, this is nothing more than a crude provocation by some cowards who want us to start a war. The old man knows it very well. Firetile, just as he has some friends in the council, he also has enemies whose only goal is disappear him. You are willing to condemn the entire guild to his disappearance for your stubbornness and stupidity. I will tell you that I personally would prefer to disappear them forever and avoid future problems, but you don't always get what you want. Did you understand? Naruto asked in an icy voice that left more than one scared, and Natsu had to make an effort not to wet his pants. Fine, growled Natsu, already calming down and sitting down. In a bank. This guy is worse than Urza, Mikao whispered under his breath to Wakaba. I agree, Wakaba muttered in agreement with his friend. Makarov came back from the bathroom, and then looked seriously at Naruto. Brat, an emergency request came in from the council last night. They need you to question a certain person. And get some information, Makarov said with a gloomy expression, contrary to the carefree one he usually had. Who is the target? Naruto asked seriously. Makarov did not respond, he just pulled out a request from among his clothes and handed it to Naruto. He read it, and his eyes widened like plates before letting out a heavy sigh. So they will start moving soon, Naruto asked, earning a wink from Makarov. Anyway, I have to go, Naruto said, coming out of the basement. Luki was walking towards her apartment, dragging her suitcase with Plu in front of her. She was walking dangerously close to the shore of the water channels, as he always did since he came to Magnolia. Things have become complicated, haven't they? Luki muttered, while the star spirit just babbled something incomprehensible. Hey lady, don't blame me if he falls, a man in a lacha shouted, while Luki just ignored him. Phantom is famous for not carrying. Fine with Firetile, Lucky said, but his pet was just saying incomprehensible things. I was actually afraid of which one to decide to enter. Their reputation is close to as crazy as Firetile's. But I think I made the best decision by joining here, Lucky said as he arrived at his apartment and prepared to open the door. Because fire and tiles, her words to herself and her pet, were interrupted when she saw that, as always, someone had broken into her house. "Welcome, welcome home, how are you? What a nice room you have," were the exclamations of Natsu, Gray, Urza, and Appy, who were already inside having dinner as if they were at home. Urza had her normal clothes, which was becoming a habit. "He's the best," she exclaimed, finishing the sentence she couldn't finish before hitting Natsu with her suitcase. "There are many of you here," I squeak, a little annoyed. "Everyone already had the habit of not respecting your privacy." "The incident with Phantom means that they have come to this city," Urza replied calmly, while sipping a cup of coffee. "They might have found out where everyone lives," Gray said, scaring Luki. "So it would be better if we are in groups, that's what Mirachan said," Gray explained. "I see," replied Luki simply. "Everyone is staying at other people's house," Appy said, raising his paw. "You are a girl of a certain age, and even I would be a little uncomfortable staying alone with Natsu and Gray. That's why I have decided to accompany you," Urza explained with her characteristic mature tone. "We're not here to relax," Natsu exclaimed, as he was still somewhat upset about not going to attack Phantom, but reluctantly had to accept that the words Naruto said to him made sense. So Natsu and Gray had already decided to stay here, but why in my house? He asked for Luki dramatically before turning to Pluyapi. The cat was poking around in the dirty clothes, and the spirit was eating a lollipop. "Hey damn cat you are, and you Plu, what are you doing?" cried Lucky angrily. "Hey Plu, what are you eating?" "I want to try," Natsu shouted, while Plu muttered incomprehensible things, pointing to a box full of sweets. "Hey, Urza, look, I found sexy underwear," Appy said, pointing to Luki's drawers. The redhead, being curious, went to the drawers, and a huge blush adorned her face at what she saw. "Wow! Do you use this?" Urza asked unconsciously, imagining senior scenes of her wearing such clothes, being punished. "By the way, redhead," quickly so that no one would notice, wiped the drop of blood coming out of his nose. It was her secret that she was a closet pervert, with only I saw him knowing about it. Although lately his friend was the object of her fantasies. "Don't make any noise, I'm going to sleep now," Gray said, lying on Lucky's bed. It should be noted that he was naked. "I'm glad you're enjoying yourselves in peace at someone else's house," Lucky said with a defeated expression. "Anyway, you guys smell like sweat. If we're going to sleep in the same room, at least take a bath," Urza ordered, recovering her seriousness by looking at her companions. "Of equipment. I don't want to upset you," Natsu growled, pouting. "But I'm sleepy already," Gray complained with a yawn. "I guess there is no choice, we will have to take a bath together like in the old days," Urza said, taking her friends who had shocked looks by the shoulders. "What kind of relationship do you guys have?" Luki squeaked with a blush, but he couldn't help but feel a hint of jealousy when imagining Natsu and Urza naked in a bathroom. Urza instantly noticed that emotion in Luki, and quickly withdrew her offer. She quite frankly understood it. "We are the strongest team," Gaki replied. "That's not the kind of relationship I'm referring to," Luki cried dramatically. Urza took a bath and then Luki. She came out of the bathroom with her pajamas, on which consisted of a white t-shirt and a pink bread. "Well, Natsu, you can use it," Luki said, but he saw that Natsu was sleeping on the table next to Appy, who was eating a fish. "What about to Gray?" Luki asked, but this one was sitting at his desk table reading. His gaze fell on Urza, who was sitting on her bed, with one towel covering her hair and another her body. "That was a nice bath," Urza murmured with a smile. "Even Urza, everyone feels too much at home already," Luki said as he lowered it with a depressive aura surrounding her. "Do not forgive yourself. I apologize, Urza, before refitting in your Art Creus pajamas." "There's nothing wrong with this, is there?" Urza asked with a calm smile. "Can you even change clothes?" Lucky asked in amazement. Lucky made himself a cup of tea and sat down in a chair. "I wonder why Phantom didn't attack," Lucky muttered, somewhat curiously. "Who knows? We've had run-ins before, but we've never come to blows," Urza said seriously. "If Grandpa wasn't afraid of them, we could go and destroy the Natsu growls by suddenly waking up." "Were you awake?" Lucky asked, seeing his friend. "Grandpa is not afraid. He is one of the 10 holy magicians, did you know?" Gray said as he continued reading. "What do you think you are reading so quietly?" Squeal Lucky, dramatizing, seeing that it was his novel, quickly snatched it from Gray. "Hey, I want to know what happens next," Gray said, since he had found the story interesting. "No, Levi-chan will be my first reader, it's already decided," Lucky replied, hugging her work against her chest. Anyway, did you mention the 10 holy magicians? Lucky asked, looking at Urza. It is a title awarded by the president. From the Magic Council to the top 10 magicians on the continent, Urza replied. Oh, fantastic, Lucky said in amazement. Phantom's teacher, Jose, is one of them, he also added to you. That man also, thought Urza with a frown, remembering Sierraine. Natsu banged the table in annoyance, knocking the law out of his thoughts. He's scared, the only thing Phantom has is a bunch of limbs, Natsu exclaimed, still annoyed. Calm down, Lucky asked, somewhat worried. I already told you that's not true, the Master and Mirachan only want to avoid a war. Because they know well the consequences of a confrontation. Between guilds, it's to preserve peace in the wizarding world, even with the way I explain it to you. Naruto, you don't get it, Gray growled, but Natsu was refusing to listen. Is Phantom so amazing? Lucky asked, somewhat worried about the situation. Those guys are nothing, Natsu replied in a somewhat arrogant tone. I don't even know if it's spelled Gajello Gassel anymore, if someone can clarify it for me I'd appreciate it. No, if we come to blows mutual destruction would be assured, our offensive power is equal, Master Makarov is said to be on par. With Master Joseph, also one of the 10 holy magi. Then there are the element 4, their S-class mages. Our biggest concern is Kurogain Gassel, he's the one who I think was responsible for the attack on the guild, the Iron Dragon's Lair. Urza explained very serious. Dragon's Lair. Are there others like Natsu or Naruto? Lucky asked in shock, looking at Natsu, who just grimaced in annoyance. So does he eat iron or stuff like that? He asked the latter more out of curiosity. An awkward silence graced Lucky's house before she decided it was better to change the subject. Urza, there's something I wanted to ask you, Lucky said somewhat sheepishly. What thing? Urza asked, looking at Lucky. Where do you know Naruto from? Lucky asked, genuinely curious. Since Naruto came to the guild, Urza did not behave as strict with him as with others. She noticed that sometimes she looked at him with a goofy smile, and that he was very able to calm her down without resorting to violence. Or having to restrain her, so she was very curious. About this, Natsu and Gay were also watching intently. Elsa blushed a little at the question, as her memories of her time with Naruto came to her mind. She didn't like to talk about her dark past as a slave, but it didn't mean she couldn't talk a little about it. I don't like to talk about the past, but I will just say that Naruto did a lot for me. He saved my life, gave me freedom, gave me something I had lost, and taught me to control and use my magical power. He was also the one who brought me fire and tile, Urza said with a nostalgic look, unconsciously rubbing her right eye with her fingers. The others were very curious, but they decided not to ask anymore. They didn't want to unleash the fury of the strongest woman in the guild, but one thing was for sure. Although they didn't know it yet, Naruto's arrival to the guild brought many changes to the guild, Urza's happiness. Her life, who was still sleeping under poor Lusaka's medical care, unknowingly, Natsu's salvation, and many more things that haven't happened yet. I wonder what you're doing, Naruto. Urza thought before going to sleep. Natsu and Gay slept with a futon on the floor. Urza and Lucky shared the bed. It was magic advice. Naruto looked at Yoku in a cold and cruel way. They were both in their office, the tension was palpable. It seemed as if the Shinigami himself was in the room. Both of them were tense, and refused to give in. Let's see what you got, old man, growled Naruto, while Ryaku remained impassive. This is your end, brat. After hours, finally the victory is mine, Ryaku said as he revealed his cards. That's right, they were both playing cards. I don't know how to play cards very well, so if I made a mistake, inform me, Ryaku. I reveal 4 -9 and a 7. Ah, you played well, brat, but you can't beat this. Ryaku, river darkly shaped, about to take the mountain of money, jewelry, rings, watches, a television, and one of microwave that was on the table, but Naruto stopped his hand. Not so fast, Naruto said with a smile before revealing a hand composed of the A, K, Q, J, and a number 10. It can't be, Yoku exclaimed in shock, falling into a depressive state. Ah, this is my 10th victory. You should retire, old man, you have nothing left to bet, Naruto river. As he was preparing to take it one, but Ryaku's voice stopped him. Not so fast, I'm not defeated yet. I think it's about time to collect the counselor's rents for living here. Ryaku muttered, getting up from his chair. Dude, councilmen don't pay rent. Living here is one of their privileges, Naruto said with a little droplet in the back of his head. Well, they'll have to pay rent from now on. That's enough of their vagrancy. Ultier, and if grain went out, I don't think they missed their televisions or their crystal ball. Ryoko said, about to go for the aforementioned objects, but one of the messengers came in interrupting their splurge. "Sorry bet. Ryaku-sama, the prisoner is ready for interrogation," the messenger said. As the young man and the old man's countenances changed from a calm one to a somber one. "I guess it's time," Naruto muttered in a cold voice. While the two were walking towards the area where the prisoners are being held, the messenger let them pass, looking at Naruto's icy gaze with fear. "I almost feel sorry for that poor fool," the messenger thought before returning to his duties. To think that such a low-level magician could give us valuable information. "Formation," Naruto muttered as he walked past Ryaku. "It's the Balam Alliance we're dealing with. They control a lot of dark guilds. Even the most useless one may have something valuable to contribute," Ryaku replied as they both arrived at the prison. Inside one of the cells was a bald and fat man with a somewhat ape-like appearance. His clothes were in tatters, and he had several scratches on his body. He was chained to the wall. They both entered the cell and stared at the man. "Mum, let's see, your name is Matu. You are from the Naked Muni Dark Guild under the command of Prayer 6. You were captured because you have murdered some merchants to rob them. They tried to negotiate with you to tell us what you know about Sentence 6. But you have refused," Naruto said as he coldly looked at the man in front of him. Matu instantly recognized who he was talking to. "Or to think that the mighty Naruto Uchiha sold personally before me for questioning, it's an honor." Ryo killed with obvious sarcasm. "If you know who I am, you should know that I will stop at nothing for you to tell me what we want to know." So he starts talking. "I order Naruto with a bad cop attitude. I advise you to tell him what he wants, son. Sometimes it can be very violent, and you don't want to know his bad side. I can even reduce your sentence if you cooperate with us," Ryaku said in a police attitude. "Well, you can say whatever you want, you scumbags, but I won't talk," Matu shouted as he struggled against his chains. "You know I can still control you to tell me what I want to know. But torturing you is more accurate. Tell me what I want to know, or else you will beg for death," Naruto said with a dark look at Matu. "I won't talk, you bastard," Matu shouted angrily. "Son, don't be silly, don't provoke him. You don't want to see him angry. If you value your integrity, tell us what you know," Ryaku asked, trying to convince. "Wax it up. I already told you that I don't," screamed Matu, upset, before being silenced by a series of punches to the stomach. "Tell us what you know, damn it," Naruto shouted in his bad cop attitude, punching Matu and causing him to spit blood. 15 minutes later, Ryaku and Naruto came out of the cell. From the prisoner with impassive looks, if you paid attention, you could hear the moans and crying of Matu. "You exaggerated a bit, don't you think?" Ryaku asked, letting out a sigh. "It was necessary, he was a tough nut to crack. Even when I put that oil on to boil and sprayed it on his balls, he refused to talk. I could have controlled him, but information obtained by those means would not have convinced many," Naruto said, with a grimace. "Undoubtedly, that is true. To think that Sentence 6 plans to start his movements in a short time. Information of this kind would have taken months of research," Ryaku said earnestly before casting a malicious glance. "We've finished our brat game yet," Ryaku said. "Dude, there's nothing left for you to bet on anymore," Naruto said, somewhat annoyed. "I still have a lot to bet on," Ryaku said simply. Naruto just sighed before shrugging his shoulders. Ultimately, the president of the council's loss was his gain. For the rest of the evening, both men spent time playing cards. Fortunately, the council members woke up in the early morning. Hearing that the president was still not sleeping, they found him without clothes, with all the appliances of his office on the betting table. They arrested just in time the leader of the Magic Saints. Before he could bet the Magic Council castle, Naruto went to sleep after stashing all his winnings in his pocket dimension. It had been his lucky night. Magnolia. Southgate Park. The next day, the morning in Magnolia City was tense to say the least. A crowd of people were surrounding one of the trees in the park, muttering things and with scared looks on their faces. The group formed by Urza, Natsu and Gay, with Luki and Yappy following them from behind, were making their way through the crowd. "Please let us through, we are practically from the guild," Urza ordered, as the crowd cleared the way for her. The scene they found causes a feeling of shock and fury in the Wizards of Firetile. Jet, Deroy and Levi were totally injured with the Phantom Lord symbol painted and bolted with metal bracelets to the tree. Levi-chan exclaimed, Lucky, trying to suppress a gasp at seeing her friend in such a condition and taking a few steps back. Jet, Droy exclaimed this time, Gray worried about his friends. Phantom, Natsu growled with a look full of fury in his eyes. The people around were murmuring, but they were interrupted by Master Makarov, approaching the scene with a glance. Indecipherable, he was wearing his coat of the 10 holy magi and carried his staff in hand. "Master," murmured Urza, clenching her fists a little. "Try to ignore it, to avoid a fight, but no parent can stand idly by when the blood of their children is spilled," Makarosa shouted. Squeezing his cane so hard that it shattered, Luki, who was standing next to the old man, was visibly scared as he had never seen him angry until now. "This is war," Makarov said in a dead voice, as his body began to overflow with a huge magical power that shattered the ground around him. The wizards of Fire Tile gathered to head to the city of Oak with only one goal in mind: to annihilate Phantom Lore. Oak, Phantom Lore. Some time later, in the huge guild that is Phantom Lore, the members of said guild were either eating, drinking, chatting, or preparing to perform jobs, all laughing. With arrogance after the has member of his guild, Kurogain no Gazil, he badly injured the members of his rival guild, Firetile. "This is great, those useless fairies are done to Nico," if I heard that Gazil went and beat up 3 members. Gazil was looking at the other guild members from some wooden pillars on the roof with a somewhat wild smile. The poor idiots were unaware of the war that was about to break out. He couldn't help but laugh in anticipation of the. He is waiting for the opportunity to fight with the elite of Firetile. "So let's do a job," said a guild member accompanied by 2 others. "And on the way we are going to pluck some fairy wings," said another with obvious disgust, as he approached the doors in the company of his companions. Boom! The guild doors exploded, sending the 3 idiots flying. Everyone set their eyes on the guild doors, bumping into a scene that made them somewhat nervous. Natsu drew, better known as Salamander, with an expression of obvious fury, while behind him went all his guild mates, including Makarov himself. "We are Fire and Tile," exclaimed Makarov, earning a rallying cry from his members, who launched into the attack. The phantom magicians quickly left. From the shock, throwing himself against the members of Fire Tile, also giving a war cry, starting the war between guilds. A group rushed at Natsu, while he threw a large amount of flames, sending them flying, knocking them out of combat. Macau and Wakaba did not do badly at all, despite their hard-working age. As a team, Macau held off some enemies with his purple flames. Kono ends up hitting them with the smoke from his pipe. Al Zakabiska protected, and attacked each other with their magic guns. Everyone was fighting, and for the moment, Fire Tile seemed to be winning. A group of magicians rushed against Makarov, which quickly. It grew in size, crushing the magi like insects, and growling in a deep voice. "He's a monster," a magician muttered under the master's palm, staring in absolute terror at the giant. "You put your hands on the children of this monster. Do not think that human laws will protect you," he replied. Makaros, looking with eyes illuminated in light at the magi. "He is strong, and the others are not left behind either. These guys are crazy. This is the power of the Firetile sorcerers." The battle continued with the advantage on the part of Firetile. Urza was facing a group of mages with their swords, defeating them with ease. Redis, making use of his magic paint, faced other magicians, and Lucky, making use of his wooden magic, was not far behind either. Even Appy attacked using a watermelon that only Kami knows where it came from when the phantom magicians. They thought that finally someone could win. "Joseph, show yourself," demanded Matt. Karos, making the earth rumble. "Where are they? Where are Gasilla and the Element 4? I practically sue Urza with her being and I don't cry," and throwing fire cuts at Phantom. The battle continued its course, and as fire advanced, and Tai attacked it with more force, Natsu and Grai practically decimated. Groups of mages with devastating fire and ice attacks, Lucky, Alzik and Viska attacked equally with energy. Urza herself had re-equipped her black-winged armor. "Not bad, droopy eyes," Natsu said, joining back-to-back with Gray. "Pretty good, same for you, slimy eyes," Gray said something rice. "They are ours now," Wakaba said in a group consisting of Macau, Kana, Loki, Urza, and himself. "Come on," exclaimed Macau according to his friend. Urza shouted Makaros from the stairs, getting the attention of the redhead. "I leave the rest to you," said the Fire Tile master directed. "Teacher," exclaimed Urza worried. "Jose must be upstairs. I'm going to remove him from the commission forever," Makarov growled without looking back. "Please be careful," Urza asked, evidently worried about Makarov. He didn't respond, he just smashed the doors in front of him with his power more. Gaining a sinister smile from Gazil, who was looking at everything in the shadows. The attack continued, and Elfman, using his monster arm, hit hordes of enemies shouting their typical, or knock, to the disbelief of a few. Gazelle then finally decided to make her appearance by jumping from the roof and laughing madly, getting the attention of everyone present. The Iron Dragon's lair, Kurogain no Gassel, Urza murmured, looking seriously at Gassel. "How dare you hurt Levi?" Nat exclaimed, throwing himself at Gassel with blind fury, who turned his arm into an iron pillar, which he stretched out by striking. To Neb and his own guildmates. Neb exclaimed Loki, and his companions worried. He even hit his teammates with that punch, Ray muttered, somewhat perturbed. "Come, you scum, the Iron Dragon's lair. Gazelle Sama will face you now," Gazelle said somewhat arrogantly. Looking at the fairy tile wizards. Otoko shouted Elfman, throwing himself at the Dragon Slayer. "Maybe I'm trash, but I'm a man," he shouted, trying to hit him. But Gazelle stopped his blow without any effort, with his arm made of iron. Gazelle tried to hit Elfman, but Elfman dodged him. Gassel did not stop, and threw another punch, stretching his metal arm, forcing the white guy to back up, only for Gassel to throw a kick. Stretching which iron pillar, which he could barely block. Not a bad compliment, Gassel. "A man must be strong," Elfman answered seriously. "So, how about this?" Gassel said, while on the sides of the steel pillar came out several smaller pillars that hit everyone around them who were Phantom members. "Damn, even your classmates." Elfman growled angrily. "Where do you think you're looking?" Gassel exclaimed, throwing another iron punch which he struck. To Elfman, sending him back. Gazelle shouted, Natsu suddenly appearing, using Elfman's body as a support to lunge at Gazelle. Natsu punched Gazelle in the face, sending him against the guild bar, leaving Phantom Lore in shock. Gazelle flew out backwards, I had never seen. "That's the Dragon Slayer from Fire Tile," Natsu said, looking at Gazelle with his fists alight. He started to get up with a predatory smile. "Elfman, leave this guy to me," Natsu asked without looking at the takeover wizard. "You not only use me as a carpet, you also want to interfere in our battle of man." "Man," complained Thefman, annoyed. "Tetsuryukan," exclaimed Gassel, throwing an iron pillar of his arm at Natsu, which Natsu could barely stop catching him with his arms. Natsu, exclaimed Urza, worried about her partner, thinking that he had been beaten. "This guy made Nikos the guild and hurt. I took the others away," Natsu muttered in a somewhat deadly voice, and lighting his fists on fire. "Eat this," I shout, holding the pillar more tightly, and throwing Gisela to the ceiling. This one took momentum, with one of the wooden bars on the ceiling, trying to hit Natsu, but he foresaw it. And hit him, throwing him against the wall. "Oh, they're having fun," Wakaba said, watching the battle. "It must be nice to be young," Macau said, as did Wakaba. As expected, Urza said somewhat proudly of the young man. "Natsu, I will let you have this manly battle," but in return Elfman said, looking at Natsu. "Yes, I will beat him up," Macau exclaimed. Natsu, before turning his attention once more to the Kurogain coming out from the rubble. "That didn't affect me," Gassel said, walking out as if nothing had happened. "You don't seem to look like that to me," Natsu replied somewhat teasingly. "Are you sure?" Gassel asked, laughing, before reaching Natsu with a great speed and pate, with his leg made of iron, sending him flying against some magicians. Hey, Ray muttered somewhat nervously as he watched Natsu being thrown. "That's being crazy," Loki exclaimed. Come on, I don't care for you either, do I?" asked Gisela, approaching the rubble where Natsu was, which put on. "Quickly on your feet. You know me quite well," Natsu muttered with a somewhat macabre laugh. Despite the situation, he was having fun, and apparently, so was Gassel, since this one also laughed. "You're an awkward hottie, you know," muttered Gassel with a magic circle in her hand, transforming once more. His arm in iron. "Shut up, you hard ass," Natsu said, similarly lighting his fists. "I will crush you," Gazelle shouted, throwing another tetsu, with which Natsu stopped with his hand on. "Don't get ahead of yourself, you iron bastard," Natsu shouted, crushing the iron pillar a little with his hand. "Oh, just like the rumors say, you have some decent power," Gassel muttered, as she retracted her hand. From which a little smoke was coming out. Uchi, is that all you got on the Mander?" Gassel asked with feigned disappointment. "Don't worry, that was just a greeting before our battle of dragons," Natsu exclaimed before initiating an exchange of blows. Natsu was left with an injured arm, while Gazelle held onto the ceiling, with spikes on the bottom of his feet. "Now I'm really on," Natsu exclaimed excitedly. "You have a bit of a destructive streak, don't you?" Gassel asked, seeing the destruction caused mostly by the fire wizard. All the battles stopped when an earthquake shook the entire guild. A huge pressure of magical power could be felt coming from the highest tower. Meanwhile, with Makarov, he was walking at a normal pace towards the last tower where he was. Joe's destroying everything in his path with his magic power. He reached the last wall that separated him from his prey. And just by standing in front of it was completely destroyed, which allowed him to see the man he wanted to destroy. The man was sitting on a chair with his legs crossed. His skin tone is somewhat sickly, and a mustache that showed beautiful dark purple. His attire consisted of a dark jester's attire that made him look quite sinister. This man is Joe's Porla, a member of the 10 Holy Magicians and master of Phantom Lord. Joe's Gruo Makaros, looking at the man with evident fury, totally destroying the room. Which apparently didn't bother Joseph. "What the hell do you think you're doing? Answer me," demanded Makarov with annoyance. "It's been a while, Makarov-san, since that meeting 6 years ago, hasn't it? I'm afraid I made an idiot of myself then. Liquor really makes me ill," he said. Joseph with a calm voice but with some mockery. Makarov was obviously upset and made his hand bigger, hitting the place where Joseph was. Which was not affected at all. "Are you nothing more than a thought projection? Damn, you escaped from the guild." Makaret growled with evident fury. "A battle between 2 of the 10 holy magi would cause a cataclysm. I prefer a simple and reasonable victory," Joseph said with some mockery and getting to his feet. "Where are you? Come here and fight fair and clean," Makaret demanded once more, looking coldly at his enemy. Suddenly, a thought projection of Luki appeared at Joe's feet. She was lying on the floor, with her hands tied behind her back, and trying to free herself. "Luki, why is that?" Makarov asked, confused and in shock. "Why is that?" Questions. "Even when she's part of your guild. Are you saying you don't know who Luki Arfiliasama is?" Jose asked something funny before he flashed a real cruel smile, and a magic symbol appeared on his hand, preparing to attack Luki. "Stop!" Makarov shouted distractedly for a few moments, just as Joseph wanted. The figure of a very tall blindfolded man appeared behind Makarov. "Damn, I didn't feel the presence of this guy," Makarov thought, impressed. "Sadness," cried the man, if the last thing Makarov saw was a glimmer of light before falling down. "From here everything happens like in the canon, so I'll skip it with Naruto." Naruto was not so. Having a nice day, after having finished his work at the Magic Council, the first thing he did when he woke up, which by the way was very late, was to have some breakfast to head to Firetile. Before he left, he had had a little verbal disagreement with Sierra and Altair. There was something about those two that he didn't like at all. After I was on the train, I heard something that he didn't like at all. He had heard some passengers comment that the city of Oko, more specifically the Phantom Lord Guild, had been attacked. He unconsciously thought about Firetile, but decided to discard it. Since he knew that Makarov, the last thing he wanted was to provoke a war between guilds. There was no extremely powerful motive. Firetile had too many enemies on the board to afford to do something like that without a strong motive. However, a part of him was telling her that something was wrong, but he was stupid to ignore her. Just to dispel his doubts, he decided to quickly pass through the city of On. And he had to use all his patience to assimilate what he found there. Flashback, Naruto watched without showing any emotion, as the Phantom Lord Guild expelled smoke from some parts. Some cracks could be seen in the towers, shattered glass, and there was nothing where the doors were supposed to be. I walk inside calmly, finding total chaos inside the guild, tables and chairs smashed, the bar destroyed, and several roof pillars broken. The place was completely empty. He was about to leave when he heard some voices upstairs. "You heard the teacher's message. The fucking Artphilia has escaped," a voice shouted with obvious fury. "What will we do? We've already risked too much with this war just for that damn thing to have escaped," another equally annoying voice growled. "But don't worry, the teacher says that we are going to invade the city of Magnolia to recapture the whore. And get rid of those damn fairies in the process. They're heading that way with the Robot Guild," the first voice said with morbid amusement. "We should go, we could capture some magus to have fun for our victory. I've always had the desire to fuck Titania's whore and the demon bitch," the other voice said with sick lust. Before the two men could continue chatting, a yellow flash appeared in front of them. And two red skeletal hands were holding them tightly, crushing their bones. Was the heart-rending cry that echoed throughout the guild. The two phantom magicians were trying to free themselves, but the more they struggled, the hands were squeezing them tighter. They could clearly hear the sound of their own bones turning to dust. They tried to look at their attacker, only to be met with a nightmare scene: a spiky blonde hair and pale-skinned man dressed in black, with black eyes with a crimson star, and inside this another black star. Three-pointed, the man had a look charged with hatred and fury, while a red aura shaped like a demonic skeleton surrounded him. The hands of this being were what held them. "Who are you?" asked one of the magicians, terrified, and resisting the urge to get in his pants. "You filthy pair think you can talk about my friends like that and get away with it. Tell me everything you know," Naruto ordered in an icy voice, scaring the pair of magicians who practically began to tell him even the story of their lives. Naruto's rage was growing every moment, but he didn't show it outwardly. "One more thing, which one of you pair of scumbags dared to even think about hurting Urza and Mirahane?" Naruto asked in a more chilling voice, leaving ice cream to both wizards. It was the exclamation of one of the two, pointing to the other, thinking that by giving him what he wanted he would be saved. The other magician was going to reply, but the hand of the Susanoo lit him in black fire. "Anyo, please don't," but Namia were the wizard's heart-rending screams. But Naruto ignored him and kept burning him until there was no longer any trace of his existence left. The other wizard was terrified when he saw the cruel way his comrade had died, but he could not reflect on it. As El Susanoo let go of him, and Naruto threw a knife at his feet. "In normal situations, I would have spared your life for having snitched on your partner to save you. There's no honor in that, but you gave me what I wanted. However, in this place, it is forbidden for magicians to kill without justifiable reason in the eyes of the council, as I understood. You see, I can't leave you alive, but I'll let you take your own life quickly and painlessly," Naruto said before turning his back on him. So he wouldn't see the wizard end his life. End of the flashback. To say that Naruto was angry was an understatement. He was completely pissed off. From the information he got from those wizards was base. That Luki was the daughter of one of the richest men in the country, and that this contract to Phantom to bring her to him. Joes used it as an excuse to destroy Firetile, take Luki to extort from his father, and take over Artfilia's fortune. Besides that, Jose was heading to Magnolia to destroy. It was the cherry on the cake. He quickly teleported to Magnolia, encountering an even worse scene. A gigantic mobile castle stood on the sea in front of Firetile, firing a Jupiter cannon that was being slowed down by none other than Urza. She only resisted for a few moments before she was badly injured, but she had saved El Gremio. Fire and Tile moments before being forced to retreat and having Natsu save Luke, and the Wizards of Fire and Tile had returned to the guild to regroup. Most of them had been badly injured, because when the Phantom Magicians saw that Makarov was out of action, their morale went up again, even attacking. Even with intent to kill, Lucky blamed himself for the whole mess, but the others were more than willing to confront Phantom to prevent her from being taken away, but they did not expect Phantom to go so far as to attack the city with a mobile guild and much less with a Jupiter cannon. Urza was able to stop the impact, but was badly injured in the process. News: Naruto, despite being a dragon slayer, is not someone who loses his temper so easily. He is usually a cheerful person who only hates a few people. Even when he was angry, he is able to keep a cool head, and if necessary fight with a coldness that would make many thought that he has no emotions, but this was not that situation. They were picking on not only the people who accepted him as a family so soon after meeting him, but they were picking on the person most important to him. They had hurt a person very dear to him, and right now, despite making every use of his mettle not to go on a massacre, only one thing was going through his mind: to humiliate and murder Joe's Porla. I knew very well why the man was here after having interrogated some Phantom guys on the way here. Phantom's master had signed his sentence the moment it crossed his mind to mess with his new friends, but what had just happened made it much worse. Death would be a generous punishment on his part. I wanted to see Joseph tortured, humiliated, and subdued. From his account, it was assumed that he would lose his rank as a saint magician in the most humiliating way. It was on his account that his career as a magician was going down the drain. From his account, it was assumed that man would live like scum, eat like scum, and die like scum. At a slow pace, and with darkened eyes, I walked towards Urza's body, while everyone opened the way for her. The presence he emitted at these moments was something very different from the warmth he normally emitted. One could only I felt to feel the hatred, darkness, bloodlust, and fury He took Urza in his arms, who barely remained conscious, ignoring Joseph's demands to hand over the Luki. He had not recognized him for the moment. The cries of denial towards Joseph stopped. All the wizards of fire and tile had their sights set on Naruto. "Naruto," I whisper Urza in a weak voice, wrapping her arms around his neck. "Don't talk, Urza-chan. Rest, you deserve it, I'll take care of everything," Naruto said, smiling at her warmly. Gave her a kiss on the cheek before walking towards Mirahane. "Please take care of her, Mirasan," Naruto requested. While I was handing over to Urza, "I walk once more until I am in front of Luki." "Don't worry, Luki, none of this is your fault. I'm going to end this here now," Naruto said with a small smile as Luki let out several tears. "Once I walk until I'm face to face against the Mobile Guild." He stopped holding back his emotions, and all hell broke loose. The skies became cloudy, and the lightning roared, the wind whipped violently, a terrible earthquake was felt. And various feelings were felt in the air: warmth, kindness, hatred, fury, and thirst to kill. Even Joseph felt it firm within. Of his guild. "Today I was scared, it seemed as if the gods themselves were angry." Bear his gaze on the young man who caused this sensation, and felt as if his soul came out of his body at the recognition. Blonde hair on end, eyes that seemed to come out of hell itself, pale skin, there was no mistake, this had you. To be a cruel joke of fate, he was facing the dreaded Naruto Uchiha. The man whose powers were such that he was considered one of the most powerful in the world. This complicated their plans. It was not expected that someone so powerful would be on Firetile's side, but he was a holy magician. He could beat the brat. To think that of all the people the legendary Naruto Uchiha was here, I didn't expect it. But that doesn't change anything between Gentlelik and Arphelia, otherwise I'll kill them all with a second shot of Jupiter Scream. Joe's Incolorizado. But something happened that left the whole phantom terrified. "You attack the people I've come to consider a family, you try to kidnap a guild member. And you shot that thing at the person I care about the most," Naruto muttered in a cold, dead voice. "I don't give a damn about the rules, I'm going to kill you, you fucking scum," Naruto shouted very angrily. As a red aura formed around him and began to take shape. "Humanoid, jump into the water so as not to harm his companions before forming the perfect Susanoo." "Susanoo perfecto," muttered Mirahane in shock. "What is that thing?" Alzak asked. Naruto Uchiha, a man known throughout the continent for his unique powers, but above all for his eyes, that's the technique. The most powerful offense of the M's, the perfect Susanoo at its maximum power, Kana said in a monotone voice. Due to the shock she was in. "It's huge, but that's the dangerous thing about that thing. It's only a little bigger than the Phantom Guild," Elfman said, somewhat confused. "That is so powerful that he can cut a chain of mountains with a single slash of the sword. It is an honor to see it. And that we will survive to tell about it. Rumors say that all those who have fought against it have not survived. It has not been. None of them," Mirahane said, leaving everyone with ice cream. Naruto took a breath of air before using one of the Susanoo's hands and with terrifying ease tore off the Jupiter cannon. Next to the teardrop inside the guild. Todomaru, who was the one guarding her, was able to jump at the last second. Naruto literally crushed the cannon and threw it into the sea before disabling the Susanoo. "The Susanoo would be too generous a punishment for you. I would kill you before you could even feel anything. I will destroy you with my own hands," Naruto said in a glacial voice before looking at Natsu, who had been silent the whole situation. "Natsu, they can use the forbidden spell Abyss Break, using the element 4 as a source. I don't care if they get killed or whatever, stop the more ones. From Phantom, I'll take care of Jose," Naruto ordered in a glacial voice, earning an AO from Natsu. For his part, Naruto began to walk with a calmness that would not last long towards the Phantom Lord Guild. He stepped on the water. And began to walk on it with only one intention in mind, to finish with Phantom Lord. To be continued.